Christmas! Ho 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 ho!
Happy Christmaka and a happy Life Day!
Oh god. Stop that.
Whip,
Oh god,
whip,
stop.
whip.
But yes, welcome back everyone to part 2, the final part of our 3-part review, which we are calling
Catching Up with the Mouse.
We've already talked about 5 shows that we did not get to this year. We had Zootopia, we had Werewolf by Night, we had Tales of Jedi, we had Hamster and Gretel, and we had Andor. Some of them were fun to get through, others were a huge slog. But now we get to the final installment here, which is actually pretty appropriate given the holiday season, which is
Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
And yeah, I gotta say, I expected to hate this, but surprisingly, I didn't. Did you?
No, I quite enjoyed it.
So, to start off, I mean, we've mentioned it in past reviews, but just to be clear going in, Doug and I did not really like the first Guardians of the Galaxy that much. And I know, again, that's a statement that should have people coming after us with torches and pitchforks, because, you know, what a big splash it made in its debut. But at the time, we just really didn't care for it. I get what it was doing. It was supposed to be a really bizarre, like, team-up and stuff, and with great humor and everything. There was just things about it that just rubbed us the wrong way. It felt like overly silly. We didn't really care for a lot of the characters, and it didn't make sense to us why people like this would actively team up and, you know, work together. So, yeah, needless to say, we were in the minority in terms of our opinions on Guardians.
Yeah. My opinion on the original Guardians of the Galaxy is it's like that one friend that you have that thinks they're a lot funnier than they are. They tend to make you laugh sometimes, but otherwise it's really cringy and awkward. And honestly, I feel like most of that comes from Chris Pratt. Or, you know, just the character of Star-Lord.
I can't stand Star-Lord at all. He is easily the most annoying character in all of the MCU. And granted, I've come across a lot of annoying characters, but he kind of is peak for me, especially because he's supposed to be the hero and you're supposed to like him and sympathize with him because he's the only human out of that whole group of aliens, but he's easily the worst thing about Guardians. And I almost didn't see the sequel because of it. Thankfully, I'm happy to say I actually enjoyed the sequel a lot more than the first one because they actually were able to flesh out the characters, give them more personality. Basically, it was a lot more well-written and it made a little more sense as to why these people hang out with each other. Not to mention, you know, the whole in-depth personal background thing they did with Peter Quill, which made him slightly more likable, but not by much. And of course, he's easily at his worst in Avengers. Dude pretty much got half the universe snapped away because he just couldn't put aside his feelings for 5 seconds and defeat Thanos. So yeah, needless to say, I do not like Peter Quill. And when What If did a whole episode saying what if Black Panther was actually Star-Lord instead, like that was my favorite episode just because it showed just how much of a useless fucking show that Peter was. And that the universe would have been so much better if he was never Star-Lord. And then in terms of his appearances since then, he appeared briefly in Thor Love and Thunder, and to me that was his best appearance ever because he was only in it for 5 minutes and he's playing the straight man here, so there was no like obnoxious quips from him, which I could appreciate. So when the holiday special came around, naturally, I was weary. I really didn't want to watch this because I figured it would again revolve around Peter Quill, and I don't need that. I don't need anything focusing on him anymore. But thankfully, they went in a whole different direction with this, which I highly appreciate.
They chose to focus on characters we actually like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just for reference, this is supposed to take place in between Thor Love and Thunder and Guardians 3. From what I heard, they pretty much filmed it at the same time, you know, since they had the actors there, they may as well just utilize them. Apparently it took James Gunn only like a few hours to write the script. It was something he always had in the back of his mind, but it wasn't until like recently he was able to like actually put pen to paper and came up with a decent idea. So yeah, you can tell that this was pretty much a passion project, and again, it's Another reason why I wasn't too gung-ho about watching it, honestly, the only reason I'm watching is because of Phil, our title card artist. He really seemed to want us to look at it, and given how much he does for us, I felt we kind of owed him. So yeah, we was like, you know what, it's just a 45-minute special. Let's just grin and bear it, make it like part of our end of the year thing. And as I said, even though it's short and it's a holiday special, it's actually a pretty good one. No lie, I am still in shock over how good this was for something that literally was kind of slapped together at the last minute. So yeah, the whole premise is that by this point, the Collector is dead. We know he died because Thanos probably snapped him away into oblivion. That means the whole planet of nowhere is up for grabs, so the Guardians are trying to establish it and make it a place where everyone can live. And during that time, Kraglin decides to share a story about Christmas, namely his first Christmas with Peter Quill. And we see like a whole flashback where he was a kid, and I guess it was his first Christmas after Yondu kidnapped him. He's trying to celebrate and stuff, but unfortunately, Yondu's being an asshole and kind of just, kicks over his tree, tosses out his presents, and tells him that Christmas is a stupid holiday, that there's no freebies, no free giveaways and stuff. It'll just get you killed. So yeah, we're back to making Yondu a dick again. And Bernard Kraglin is indicating that Peter's had a sour view on Christmas ever since, which kind of prompts the plot of the special in that Mantis listens to the story, she feels really bad and she wants to do something nice for Peter, so both she and Drax decide that they're going to get him like the best Christmas present ever.
So apparently, despite being really young at the time, Peter is like a huge fan of Footloose, and Kevin Bacon is like a personal hero of his.
I admit I was a little confused by that too, because when they were talking about like what celebrity does he talk about nonstop, and I'm thinking, David Hasselhoff. We already saw him in Guardians 2. They're probably going back to the special, but no, it's Kevin Bacon, and I'm thinking, wait, when did he talk about Kevin Bacon? But then I remembered he mentioned, I think in Avengers, he's like, isn't Footloose like the best movie of all time? And I won't lie, I've never seen Footloose. Like, I've seen Kevin Bacon and other stuff. Footloose, I just never got around to seeing.
I've seen the stage adaptation.
And I guess it makes sense because when you consider that the reason he saved the day in the first Guardians movie is because he decided to spontaneously start dancing, which defeated the villain via confusion. I guess it makes sense in that regard. But yeah, I imagine he would have been too young at that point to fully appreciate Footloose, but then again, this is a guy that lives and breathes music, so, I guess it makes sense in that regard. I did want to mention, I thought it was a rather interesting choice when they made the flashbacks completely animated. Not so much animated, I should say, more like rotoscope. Like, think of like Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings back in like the 70s and 80s. I guess that was why they did it, to like harken back to that time period, since that's when he was growing up. I also guess because A, it helps them make the kid look a lot more like Peter Quill, and B, they probably couldn't get Michael Rooker to show up on sets. They kind of just, drew him from like past movies and stuff and just put his voice in later. At least that's what I assume anyway. They also made Kraglin look younger too. Like, apparently that was him, they just aged him down, which actually helps a lot, so you don't have to get a stand-in or whatever. Like I said, an unexpected choice, but I appreciate it, because, rotoscope can look really creepy and off-putting, but when done right, it's actually a rather interesting art medium. Think of it as like ye olde Robert Zemeckis CGI films, except, not as creepy.
So yeah, they're also have like this band in town played by the the old 95s?
The old 97s.
The old 97s. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to put Peter in the holiday spirit, even though they have no idea what it is.
We heard this from this person, who heard it from this person, who heard it from this person, who heard it from you.
So they come up with this holiday song that they sing to Peter, and it's just confusing, but it's got that nice holiday feeling to it.
I don't know what Christmas is, but Christmas time is here. God damn this holiday special for putting that in my brain and making me remember it. Seriously, it takes like a lot of skill to do that, especially in regards to this. Like, It was honestly impressive, like, this song, both in terms of its lyrics, how funny it was, but it actually still has the Christmas spirit in it, and it's honestly targeted for, like, Scrooges like me who are sick of, like, typical holiday songs, and the fact that it's catchy on top of that, like, I really give this band kudos for that. Apparently, from what I heard, it took them, like, 3.5 hours to put their prosthetics on, you know, to make them look more alien, and God bless them for being able to put up with that and perform at the same time. So, yeah, the whole big plot kicks off, like I said, when Mantis and Drax decide that they're gonna get Kevin Bacon as a Christmas present for Peter. They take their ship and they go all the way to Earth and are basically looking all over LA trying to find out where he lives. Which, of course, leads to a lot of, adventures and misadventures and stuff. At one point, they end up in front of,
Grauman's Chinese theater.
Yeah. And of course, you all know how that area's like. Everyone dresses up as celebrities just so they can get pictures taken, they can get money and stuff, and that's pretty much how they get their money in order to survive being in the city.
Basically the West Coast equivalent of Times Square.
Yeah. For the record, I hate those people. They're so obnoxious. But at least I can say the Hollywood people put in more effort into their costumes than the people in Times Square do. And apparently we learned from this encounter that GoBots killed Drax's cousin. So GoBots are real? I didn't know that.
I believe they are a Marvel franchise, and technically so are Transformers.
Yeah, technically. So I guess it's true that GoBots really did kill his cousin. Whew, that is a crossover I want to see now. But yeah, they're having a lot of fun. They get a ton of money, and they eventually end up in this bar, but even though they're on a mission to find Kevin Bacon, they take a moment to stop and get wasted. Like, they are taking shot after shot after shot, and dear God, like, I know they're aliens and stuff, but you think after a certain point they'd kind of die from that? Technically speaking, alcoholic beverages are poisonous to humans, just on a degree that it makes them, more loopy than it kills them, until you get to a certain amount. So I only wondered how that would react for aliens, but hey, at least they had a good time up until they lost all their money. Thankfully, they're able to get one of those, map to the stars, that lists where every single celebrity lives, and they're able to get through Beverly Hills and everything, and eventually find Kevin Bacon, who is setting up to basically have a typical, perfect Christmas with his family. And he celebrates this by watching Santa versus the Martians.
Santa conquers the Martians.
Oh yeah, Santa conquers the Martians. For the record, the only reason we watched that film is because Riff Trax was making fun of it, and I won't lie, that was a tough sit to get through. Not that Riff Trax didn't make it funny, they did, but the film itself is bad. I won't lie about that. It's rough, a little rough once you get past the whole concept of, oh, Santa's actually associating with Martians. Yeah, so Mantis and Drax is able to track him down to his home. He thinks they're just a bunch of fans, turns him away, but of course they bust their way on into his house, and it becomes a whole big chase of him trying to outrun them while they're trying to kidnap him. And at one point there's even a standoff with the police. And apparently we learned that Drax is bulletproof. In fact, it tickles him. But yeah, they eventually get a hold of Kevin Bacon. Mantis uses her mind control thing to keep him compliant. But on the way back, when they're asking him, about his adventure, because they think that Kevin Bacon's some big Earth hero or something, they come to learn that no, he's just an ordinary actor. And apparently actors are incredibly repugnant, according to Trax. And Mantis is trying to warp his mind so that he acts more heroic and stuff, but he's just putting on a persona like an actor would.
Hack British accent.
Mm-hmm. Then he tries to be Bruce Wayne.
It's who's Bruce Wayne? This is Marvel, damn it!
She's like, we need you to be Kevin Bacon, but not suck! And at one point he's like, you know what? Normally that would piss me off, but I'm just happy to be here. And I'm looking at him like, Kevin Bacon, did you get high during this? Is that the only reason you agreed? So they think that they've ruined Christmas for Peter, that this isn't the same person that he's admired, that, everything's ruined. They do end up doing a rather nice gesture. I honestly got sort of the feels when I was watching this, because you see Peter is just hanging out in a bar, drinking and stuff, but he hears commotion going on outside, and as soon as he steps outside, suddenly all these Christmas lights turn on, and it's not just one part of the town, it's the whole square and everything. It's everything is just decked out in holiday decoration, and Normally, I find stuff like that's overdone, rather gaudy and annoying, but in that moment, I actually could kind of like, feel the warmth of it, because I do like Christmas lights when they're done tastefully. To see Peter's face when he sees the length that all of his friends went to replicate Christmas for him and to make it nice for him, like, it kind of just touches your ear a little bit.
They decide to wrap him into a package. Didn't give him any air holes or anything to breathe through. So he's like about to pass out while they're waiting for Peter to come see the package. But then he hears like the package noises. He's like, oh God, what did you do?
Yeah, he sees Kevin Bacon. He is like, why did you guys do this? This isn't Christmas gifts. This is human trafficking. Which he's not wrong. Yeah, he realizes what they did, and he makes them undo the spell on him. And of course, he freaks out immediately, which I don't blame him. But he assures them that, look, my friends did something stupid. We're gonna send you back to your family, just don't freak out any further. They all feel bad about what they did, and Kraglin is about to bring Kevin Bacon back, but then he brings up how much he meant to Peter Quill growing up. Again, by virtue of the fact that he considers him one of his heroes, how it was, again, because of his dancing, that's what inspired him to ultimately save everything in the first Guardians movie and stuff. So Kevin Bacon, after hearing all that, I guess his heart grew 3 sizes that day. Because he's been on the phone with his wife a good part of the time, and that is his actual wife. I looked it up. And he asked, can I just be a couple hours late? I just want to do this for a fan. So he actually teams up with that band we saw earlier and sings this whole Christmas song with them as they, get into the whole Christmas celebration. And I thought that was pretty sweet.
Meanwhile, we've forgotten to mention, Mantis has been holding a secret and is trying to come up with a way to tell Peter that she's actually his sister, his half-sister.
That was kind of a big reveal, but at the same time, not really, because when you think about it, it does make sense. They don't make it blatant in the sequel. Ego kind of, alludes to her being more of, I guess, either his pet or his nurse or something, by virtue of the fact that she has the power to calm his mind when he needs it most. And I assume that's the only reason he spared her from the fate that all the rest of his children besides Peter suffered. Again, it's not outside the realm of believability. It's like he just decided to let her live because she was useful. Her reasoning, I thought, was a bit weird. The reason she didn't tell him outright was because of how awful Ego was, and because of, what Ego did to Peter's mother and all of the shit that he's caused. She didn't want to be guilty by association and just be a constant reminder of that for him. Which I guess I can understand, but it's that's a shitty thing to do if you associate a relative with something that another relative did. You're really not supposed to do that. And I get for some people it's kind of hard in that regard, but Mantis has been with him for God knows how long at this point. She helped him at the end of the second movie. She was there all throughout the Avengers movies, up to the events of Thor: Love and Thunder. So you think at this point they would have a friendly relationship, and even if she did reveal it, he'd look past all that. But of course, like we said, that's what ends up happening. By the end of this, when she reveals why she went to such lengths to give him a good Christmas, it's because she's his sister and she wanted to do something nice for him. And he's just like, Mantis, that is the best present you could have given me. Which is true, because think about it, at this point, Peter's lost basically everybody he knows, who's a family member. He's lost his mother, he's lost his father, he lost his father figure, he lost his girlfriend. A lot of people he knows are dead at this point, so to have this new family member be someone that he's known and actively likes, that meant a lot to him. That was the big, feel-good Christmas moment in all this, them embracing as siblings.
I'm not crying, you're crying. She reveals, that because of the story, they thought that, we thought Christmas was ruined for you forever and stuff. It's you didn't hear the entire story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it turns out there was more than what Kraglin was telling him, because he wasn't there for that part. Yondu goes back to try to throw out the remains of the Christmas decorations Peter had set up when he notices the present that Peter got for him. And it's like that cute little squeeze doll thing he had on his console. So I guess the spirit of gift giving gets to him. So he actually gives Peter a gift back as well, and that was his first set of guns that he eventually teaches him how to shoot. And you see that, he keeps the little trinket on his panel when he drives, and that he even lets Peter sit up front with him as they fly off to another galaxy. I gotta say, I am so glad they put that part in there, because after seeing the beginning, I'm like, are we back to making Yondu an asshole again? Like, the second movie went to such lengths to redeem him from the first and show that he is a good guy. In fact, that he actually cares about Peter like he was his own son. So for them to go back and show what an asshole he was to him during Christmas, like that, to me, felt really out of left field. But again, it's supposed to lead up to this whole big reveal that, he was a Scrooge at first, but then he came around and decided to indulge him and show that he does care about him. Honestly, the story and main plot of this was really good. It was a great, big, fun Christmas adventure. Yeah, it had the same Christmas, messages and sentimentality and stuff, but it's done in a very useful way that isn't overly saccharine and not cheesy. Like, if anything, I heard they based a lot of what they wanted to do in this off of the Star Wars Holiday Special. Just kind of making it over the top without, being overly bad.
And of course, the fact that they chose to have Drax and Mantis be the focus was what made it the most enjoyable.
That honestly was the best decision and the perfect choice. I already enjoyed these two in the second Guardians movie, just seeing them bounce off each other. Because you have Mantis, who's this innocent little childlike creature who is learning all of this stuff because she's been sheltered her whole life by Ego. And then you have Drax, who, as we know, takes things literally, but he has that sense of humor where he doesn't fully have boundaries with it and can sometimes comes off as insulting or mean, but it's done in such a funny way you kind of forgive it. I love it at the beginning where, after he hears the story about Yondu and Peter, and he's like, ugh, I hate stories where everyone lives. He's like, I like the part where he kicked over the tree. It's like, you can appreciate humor like that, especially when it's coming from Drax. From what I heard, they wanted to do a whole, Abbott and Costello type thing with them, which I think they pulled off perfectly with this. It's like they're both naive aliens coming to Earth, trying to fit in and stuff, and of course, their mentalities kind of get in the way and cause a lot of misunderstandings, but it's still really funny to see them get through all that. I just love seeing Drax beat the shit out of the GoBot. That was hilarious. And then him getting obsessed over the little man, the elf decoration, that was cute.
Oh my god. Then Mantis gave him the little inflatable thing at the end.
He was so happy.
That was great.
I also like the part during the police standoff where he actually flips the cop car, and she's like, Drax, you're not supposed to kill anyone. He's like, well, how do I know the rules if no one explains them to me?
Doesn't he give them the elf so that it's even?
She gives him her candy cane, which the decoration she likes, and is like, there, we're even now. And she's telling these cops are hanging upside down in their car. Oh my god. I like at one point they practically rob someone. After they go on a drinking bender and they're hanging out in the street, they're like, oh, how do we find Kevin Bacon? And just so happens one of those map sellers is nearby, and she's like, here's the thing. Oh, but it costs money. And she's like, oh crap, I spent all my money. And then she's like, you're gonna give it to me for free. And she just hands it to her, and she's like, hey, you're gonna give me all your money? I'm like, that's a bit overkill, but why not? While you're at it. And honestly, Kevin Bacon was fun in this too.
Yeah.
It's nice that he's has enough of a humor about himself to poke fun at himself in that way.
Oh, yeah.
That he can take a joke. I did wonder, I feel like that was actually him singing with the band,
Probably.
which damn boy, I didn't know you could sing like that. I always forget how old he is too. I keep thinking he's a lot younger than he actually is.
He's been around a while. How old was he when he filmed Footloose? And that was back in the 80s, right?
Fuck, that was almost 40 years ago at this point. Shit. I also do like when they're exchanging gifts at the end and everything. I like that Nebula gifted Rocket Bucky's arm.
Yeah.
He kept saying, I'm gonna get that arm, and she actually got it from him. And I'm like, Nebula, did you go all the way to Earth and swipe this from Bucky's apartment when he wasn't looking? Like, I want to see that.
Or she was able to talk with the Wakandans and get them to craft a replica.
See, that would be the more logical approach,
Yeah.
but knowing how the Guardians are, I would not be surprised if she swiped his original arm. The only downside was that the rest of the Guardians didn't really have that much to do, which, in terms of Peter Quill, I was grateful for, because, like, yeah, he's kind of the focus and that they're trying to reinstall his Christmas spirit, but thankfully he's out of the way for most of that. He does have some funny lines, you know, like I said, the whole human trafficking line, that was funny, and him just reacting uncomfortably to this band that are, like, singing about Christmas and stuff, and he's like, no, that's not how it goes, and at one point he's like, actually, yeah, that's how it goes. I thought he was, like, the appropriate amount in this. Unfortunately, like, Rocket, Groot, Nebula, a lot of them are kind of shoved to the side, and they have, like, maybe one or two moments where, you know, they can be funny or whatever, but for the most part, you're just kind of there. Although we do see, in terms of continuity, Groot is finally almost back to his full adult form. He's, like, at his teenage college stage where he's, like, working out at the gym all the time, because boy is jacked. And they apparently have another member of the team now. Was it the space dog?
Cosmo.
Yeah, Cosmo the space dog.
Yeah.
From what I heard, they actually got a Bulgarian actress to voice her, which makes sense.
Yes, I forget what her name was. Something like Balaclava.
I think so.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, because when I heard Cosmo the space dog was like a boy in the comics, but in this they made her a girl, which is actually more accurate to the dogs they used to send into space. Most of them were girls, including, was it Laika? Like the first space dog. Good change with that, you know, like I said, way more accurate.
But the greatest thing of all, no Howard the Duck. Sorry, Seth Green, but...
He's too busy filing divorce papers from Darcy.
That's in another reality.
I know.
Yeah.
I just like to think that's what was going on. Like I said, this was a surprisingly good holiday special. In fact, I even watched it a second time just so I had all the jokes, you know, fresh in my mind and all that. And like I said, the music's actually pretty damn good. The setting's really damn good. And they even make you feel stuff. I never really expected to feel stuff like that from a Guardians movie. So, yeah, kudos to the director and the writer and everyone else that worked on this. For something that was just like a fun side project to do while they were filming Guardians 3, this was better than it had any right being. So yeah, with that being said, that pretty much wraps up all of our retrospective on stuff we missed for the year. There probably was one or two other things we wanted to get to, but like I said, this was an idea we came up with pretty late in this time of year. We were just going to get through our backlog and leave it at that, but we felt like we owed you guys some additional stuff, especially given some of the more popular things that came out throughout the year. And hey, if you guys enjoyed this segment, let us know. Comment down below if you think that we should keep this up, if maybe there are certain things next year that we don't get to, if you would like us to do a review style like this, just to share our brief thoughts on stuff. Because trust me, while we would like to get to every new release on Disney Plus and everything, like there was just so much stuff this year. They really prioritized like quantity over quality with a lot of the stuff. In fact, we're actually doing an end of the year review with Zenith, which will probably come out sometime in February if I had to guess. Because, you know, we have a lot of stuff to catch up on. She has a lot of stuff to catch up on. And there was a lot of movies this year, like at least 14 that we got to. And we had to cut down the list just to make it somewhat contrite. Like I said, that's why in terms of our personal show, we would like to keep doing this segment just so we're not constantly struggling to catch up with things and we can get the main stuff out in a timely manner. Like I said, just comment if you think you'd like to see more of this. With that being said, thank you everyone for tuning into this. Thank you for tuning into us. We truly appreciate it. And if I may do my usual holiday spiel, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Crazy Kwanzaa, a tip-top Tet, a solemn and dignified Ramadan, a festive Yule, a rip-roaring Saturnalia, a Festivus to the rest of yous, and for all you Scrooges out there, happy shut the fuck up. Oh yes, and happy Life Day, I guess. But most importantly, Happy New Year to all of you out there. I know it's been a rough year for us this year. I'm sure it's been rough for a lot of you out there as well. So best wishes to all of you. We hope that the new year for all of you, for all of us, is a lot better than it was this previous year. So with that being said, I'm Kat MacBerrie.
I'm Doug MacBerrie.
And Merry Christmas, you filthy animals, and a Happy New Year.
Christmas time.